Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to Speak On It. I am your boy, R.W. Coolins. Welcome to the show this morning. We got a good one for you. First and foremost, giving honor to God who allows me to come at you in this manner on a weekly basis. I'm trying to hear. Got some things going on in my ear. Y'all bear with me. Had some technical difficulties this morning, but we're going to get past all that. But got a good show. Let me start again. It's a straight talk, no chaser Saturday. That's what we're doing this morning here on the Speak On It show. And we're going to get into it. Let's go ahead. Let's get this going. Let's go. What's going on, everybody? Let's get into this. Hey, we got a straight talk, no chaser Saturday morning. I don't know why my headphones are sounding like they're sounding. Hopefully I'm sounding good to everybody out there. To myself, I'm not sounding that good, but that's all right. We're going to get through this. We're going to make it through and continue to do what we do. Straight talk, no chaser Saturday morning. You know what it is here on the Speak On It show. I am your host, R.W. Coolins. 844-904-2665. That's 844-904-2665. 2665. No matter what the situation is, let your voice be heard. All we ask is say what you mean what you say. Coming as friends, we leave as family. That's what we do here on the Speak On It show every Saturday morning. We got some good mornings coming in. OT, good morning, my brother. Good morning. Appreciate your support. Appreciate it. Brian Hoodie, good morning, my brother. Good morning. Appreciate you. Thanks for tuning in. Look here, man. Weather's been kind of crazy all over the United States. Been cold. Freeze warnings in different places, snow in different places. It ain't over yet. We still got another storm fronts moving through. So y'all be out there, be ready, be prepared. Go get your milk, your bread, do what you do when you got this weather stuff going on. But you know, it is what it is. 20 January 20th is where we're at right now. We're 20 days in to 2024. Right now, it's an election cycle going on. And we're going to get into that. But let me go ahead and do this first before we even get started on that. Can I vote? You're going to continue to hear me say this. Can I vote? That's the website, www.nass.org, www.nass.org. Can I vote? National Association of Secretary of States. Go to this website, make sure you're able to vote. We're going to get into the voting here in a few minutes when we talk about some other things going on. But I got some things that I want to get off my chest this morning. Straight talk, no chaser, as I said. Got a couple of rants that I want to do. Mind, body, and soul is coming back today. And I got a special dedication going out. Special dedication. But can I vote? Can I vote? NASS.org. Go there. I'm not going to go through all the slides today, but go in there. Make sure you're able to register. Pull up your state. Pull up your name. Pull up your information. Make sure you're registered the right way. Do what you do. Get it together. And we're going to talk about the voting as we get into the show today. Yeah, we got some things we need to talk about. Got some things we need to talk about. So without further ado, let's get into this. In the news. Donald Trump, former President Donald Trump, feels that immunity should be given to any and every president, and they should not be held accountable for any crimes they commit within office. His words, not mine. Michelle Summerall, good morning. Appreciate you. Thanks for the support. Not his words, not mine. But former President Donald Trump has a case coming up that deals with the immunity. He feels he should be immune from anything he's being charged with while he was in office. Right, wrong, or indifferent. He's saying even if he sent somebody out, SEAL Team 6 and everything, we talked about that, but he's digging deeper. He's digging deeper into this, saying that immunity should be for any president for the simple fact that if you don't give the president immunity, then he's not able to do his job. Now, ludicrous. Are we talking about what he said, or are we talking about the rapper? I know who you're talking about. It is ludicrous. And here's the thing about it. All the presidents before him, you can go all the way back to George Washington and come on up to him, never made this argument about having immunity to be able to commit crimes while in office and not be held accountable, for the simple fact that they didn't do anything outside of the parameters of what they were hired to do. They didn't lead or push for an insurrection on the Capitol. They didn't keep classified secrets, nuclear secrets, in a bathroom in Mar-a-Lago. They didn't do any of these things. Now, you can go back and say when Reagan had the Iran-Contra thing, when Oliver North took the fall for that, there should have been consequences to that. But by the time Ronald Reagan came to testify, I don't recall, I think they said he had Alzheimer's, dementia was setting in and everything. Now, you can call it what you want. Could have been faking, could have been real, who knows? But at the end of the day, for him to come out now and people defend that he should have immunity against any crimes he committed while in office, and understand he is laying this groundwork for when if and when he becomes the nominee for the Republican Party to run for president again, that he will have unfiltered, unabashed power to do whatever he wants as though he is a dictator. And you have people out here in this world, in this United States of America, who feel that he should, who feel that it's okay for him to do this, and they will vote for him. Now, as I always say, I'm not the brightest light bulb in the socket, but I do flicker every once in a while. We hear people say many times when elections come around, if we don't do this, this could be the end of our democracy. This could be this, vote or die. All those different slogans you've heard throughout the years. I'm not going to put none of them slogans out there, but what I will tell you is this. If you're not part of the process, then you're part of the problem. If you choose not to be part of the process, you are part of the problem. And when I say part of the problem, I'm saying it in the manner of, if you choose, I'm not telling you who to vote for, but I'm telling you a perspective. If you choose to vote for an individual, and I'm just going to say an individual, who you knowingly has committed crimes, who you knowingly has done anything and everything outside of the box from what we know the president of the United States is supposed to do in legislation or any of our elected officials, and you still choose to go to the ballot box knowing that this person is up on trial for certain situations, has been indicted on 91 charges and so on and so on, and you still go to the polls and you decide to vote for this person, when it's all said and done, if this person gets into office, please don't let me hear you complain when things don't go your way. Now, I've heard a lot of different conversations. Michelle Summerall, and sadly, that's true. Loyalty or cult-like, exactly. I've heard a lot of different discussions this week, and I've heard people going around these different panels. You know how they get these people on these different panels, and they're talking. Something in my eye this morning. I don't know what it is, y'all. But I seen an interview the other day with Charlemagne the God, Lennar McKinley, or whatever his name is, and Angela Rye. And they were on an interview and they were talking about everything. Well, let me put it this way. Charlemagne the God, Leonard, I'm going to call him. Leonard chose to highlight anything and everything that he doesn't feel that President Biden has done. in the course of being the president. He also made it a point to say that he regrets voting for Joe Biden last time. This is the verbiage. The people with a microphone, as I do. So some people may say the same thing about me, but I'm going to say it about him right now. Who get on a microphone, and because they have a microphone, they have a certain platform, say things out of the side of their neck just for clicks and views. And I say it that way because there's no way that you can sit in any capacity. And I'm going to say it this way. There's no way you can sit in any capacity as a black person in this country and think that Joe Biden, with all his shortcomings, all his missteps, or whatever he may do, or has done, or will continue to do, is not a better choice than the former president, Donald Trump. And when you sit on a platform and spew those type things, there are certain people that will hold on to that and go to the polls and vote for President Donald Trump, knowing everything he's done without realizing the consequences that may come along with that vote. Martial law is on the table. Dictatorship things are on the table. However, we tend to say that he'll never do this, he'll never do that. Nobody thought he would have an insurrection on the Capitol, but we had it. No one thought that he would take classified documents and keep them, but he did. Nobody thought that he would be selling his soul in the country to another country for financial gain, but he did. But today, we're sitting here debating with people of whether if he gets the nominee to be president of this United States on the Republican side, that he is the person that we're going to vote for. That says more about your education and your experiences as far as voting for a man that you know has all these inequities, inconsistencies, criminal, whatever you want to call it, what do they call it? Criminal intent, since they like to use that word intent so much. This is what we're looking at right now. And for all those out there that are trumpeters for this person called Trump, you have to step back for a minute and ask yourself why. Because I'm going to go out on a limb and say this. Let me get these good mornings out the way. For Willis Cheney, good morning, my brother. Appreciate the support. April Wheaton, good morning, sis. Good morning. Appreciate you. James Battle, good morning. Good morning. Y'all feel free to chime in when you want now. But I will say this. Let's look at it from a different side. And I'm going to talk to my African-American black folks for a minute, real quick. And Teresa, good morning. Appreciate you. Thank you. Love you. Thanks for the support. I'm going to talk to my African-Americans for a minute. You got somebody that you've known your whole life. And you know their background. You know the things they've done in their life, criminal activity and all these type things or whatever. And they come to you and they say they want to run for something, or they want to open something, or they want to start something. And a lot of times we will give them the benefit of the doubt, because it's us as a people, we always tend to lean towards giving people the benefit of the doubt because we want to be given the benefit of the doubt, no matter what our past says. But you can't tell me that if you take 10 African Americans for this one person who's trying to do something that has all these wrongs, that at least 8 of them are not going to support him in whatever he's doing. Now let's flip this. Mind you, this brother has the same experiences as you. This brother has been down with you from day one. And let's flip this and put you as a white individual with this brother or sister asking for support, asking for help, with them knowing his background and everything he may have done wrong, indiscretions in his life. How many of you think that they'll support him in any way? Out of those 10, I'm going to go with 0. But when you put a white man who's running for president with all the inconsistencies and all the indiscretions that he's committed in this United States, not only as a businessman, but as a president of the United States, which he's been acquitted 91 times now. We have people that aren't even batting an eye to look at those things. They're concentrating on the fact of, we like him. No matter anything he's done wrong, we like him. And then we have us as a people out here. We have our, not as a whole, but our individual ones out here that are trumpeting the same rhetoric to get this man reelected as those ones that don't look like him in order to put him back in office. I'm going to say this not for people to be in fear, but for people to look at the reality. There's certain people in our lives that we can look at and know from the start what their intent is, why they associate with us, and why they only associate with us in certain instances. I bring that up because we're in an election, in an election season, excuse me. And in an election season, you always hear the pandering for the black vote. And when you hear this pandering for the black vote, they never tell you what they're going to do specifically for the African-American black community. But they will tell you how many African-Americans are going to vote Democrat, how many are going to vote Republican. And they even broke down, I seen an article the other day that broke down African-American black men are leaning more towards Trump than they are to Biden if it comes to them in an election. I'm going to ask this question, and I hope you guys will chime in. When did we get so comfortable that we feel that a person like Donald Trump or someone that you may know that carries that same egoism, that same attitude, and only deals with you when you're black, that you would cast a vote to give this man the authority to put anyone that looks like you in jail for any reason at any time. And you want to give him that much authority over you. Now, mind you, we don't know anybody's intentions once they get in there. We don't know their intentions before they get there. However, the displays of what he's already shown us lets you know that none of us, let's just be honest when we say this, when I say this, and you don't have to agree, but I'm telling you from what I know to be true. He has shown you everything that relates to white supremacy. Now, mind you, don't at me, because I didn't say he was a white supremacist. I said he has shown you every attribute to the belief of white supremacy. Understand the difference. Understand the difference. Because you can have someone that is truly invested in white supremacy, but is not a white supremacist. May sound crazy, but look it up. Think about it. Read up on it. Fake Jackson, he's back. Happy New Year, my brother. Happy New Year, Fake. Appreciate you, bro. Appreciate you. Brian Hoodie, no, sir, not this black man. Every black man should be feel that way. Every black woman should feel that way. Every person of it's a straight talk, no chase. I'm just letting it fly today. Anyone in this country who has a melanin content within their skin should think long and hard about voting for this man. They should think long and hard about voting for anyone in the Republican Party at this time. And I'm going to get into that in a minute. All I'm telling you is this. We know that everything in this country that deals with us as a people is not perfect. In no how, no way. However, when they say, and we say around this time of elections, sometimes we have to pick the lesser of two evils. A lot of people don't like to hear it, but call it what it is. When we say the lesser of two evils, we're not talking about you got one that's a white supremacist or a Klan member compared to a white guy that's just racist. No, I'm not. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is when you say the lesser of two evils, you have to look at the fact of which one, which neither one may do anything specifically to help the black man or the black woman or the black community or the Hispanic community or any of the brown and black folks, as they like to say. But which of the two is going to hurt you less? Let that marinate for a minute. Not the fact that we expect them to do everything that we need done for us, but which one is not going to start trying to take away anything that we already have? Which one is not going to do anything to further harm what we've tried to make in progress to this point? That's what I look at. That's what the visuals for me, that's what jumps out. Because at the end of the day, what we have to do is step back, pay attention to what our interests are. But we also have to look at what our interests are and the interests of our brother man or our sister in the same realm. If I'm here financially and I know somebody's here, I can't always think about what's going to benefit me here. There's people in that middle in your family, in your life, and everything like that is going to be affected by things that may not affect you here. But that trickle down that we hear all the time never makes it. It may benefit you. When I hear people talk about the 401ks and the TSPs and all this kind of stuff they got, and while the stock market was thriving under Trump and I was making money and I lost money and all this kind of stuff, and it hasn't been back the way it was since Biden's been in office, but when Trump was in office, I was making a lot of money on my 401k and everything. All money ain't good money. And say all money ain't good money. And then you have to ask yourself, and I'll say it and I'll continue to say it. The stock market ride that he rode was because of the 8 years of President Barack Obama, not because of anything he did. All he did in office was give tax breaks to the rich. What else did he do for you? Now, this is not a political speech for anybody to go out there and say, R.W. Coolins told me I got to vote for Joe Biden. That's not what I'm saying. I'm telling you, do your homework. Make a conscious decision when you're going to the polls. Think about the long term. Not tomorrow. Not today. We're talking about 4 years, another 4 years, possibly, of either one of these candidates that may come up. Biden may get 4 more. Trump may get 4 more. Who's going to benefit you? Which one is going to benefit you best? Nichols Allen, excuse me. Good morning. Appreciate support. Thank you. Shell some raw. Oh, y'all just speaking back and forth through the text. Hey, girl. Hey. I needed that little break in there. Appreciate it. But that's what I'm saying to y'all. I'm not telling you, and I like I always say, I would never tell you who to vote for. You have to do your homework. And if you're doing your homework, it should not be an easy decision, but it shouldn't be a very difficult decision as well. That's all I'm saying. Be ready. That's all I'm going to say. All right. So, as I mentioned, we got a lot of different variations of what's going on right now with these elections coming up. And I've watched a lot of different interviews. I haven't watched any of the debates at all for the Republican Party. I'm waiting for the actual debates of the candidates. That's where I'm at. But this jumped out at me the other day, and I know there's a lot of people who've seen it. A lot of people have talked about it. But I got an opinion on this as well, as you all know I would. And this opinion deals with Mrs. Nimrata Nikki Ranhawa Haley. Nimrata Nikki Ranhawa Haley, aka what they're presenting her as is Nikki Haley. The reason I put up her full name is because I asked the question to myself, is like, what is she trying to hide? Or what is she running from? Or what is she trying to pass as? I don't know. These are the questions that come to mind. And the only reason I asked that question is because we had another person that ran that had a name that they threw out there so much to make you feel or make those feel that he was some kind of terrorist because of his middle name. Barack Hussein Obama. Barack Hussein Obama. Now, we remember nobody really knew his middle name, but when they found out his middle name, they made it a point to broadcast it everywhere because people were scared and the fear of terrorism by someone with a name like that, Saddam Hussein and anything you can think of from 9/11. But they made it a point to broadcast his middle name when they said his name to put fear in folks before they went to the polls. But the only reason you really hear Nikki Haley's name now that we've never heard it before, never heard it when she was governor of South Carolina, never heard her when she was a UN ambassador, but you're hearing it now because Donald Trump decided that he was going to bring up the birther effect with her as well, like he did with President Barack Obama, to ask, is she a citizen and can she be president? And also to put fear in the fact that this woman is not per se one of us. And the reason I bring her name up is because I find it odd. That when she was asked a question about a racist country this week, the way she pushed back, the way she talked about it, and her response, which I'm going to play in a minute. But the way she responded told me everything I needed to know on why she chooses to say her name is Nikki Haley, not Nimrata Nikki Ranhawa Haley. Y'all know I had to practice that, right? Just saying. So I'm going to play this clip. It's 3 minutes long. But I think everybody's seen it, but I want you to see it again because I got some points that I want to pull out of it. And I think it's something that we all need to pay attention to. Not what exactly they're saying, but the audience they're saying it in front of, the people that they want to hear it, and in the way they want to hear it, and the message that they're sending that they don't want other people to pick up on. That's my opinion. That's where I look at it. But I'm going to go here. Let's go ahead and do this.
Ask you about a comment you made earlier this week. You said that America has, quote, never been a racist country, unquote. Protections for the institution of slavery were written into the U.S. Constitution. The White House was built with slave labor. Your home state of South Carolina seceded from the Union, fought a war to defend the enslavement of black people. I understand you don't think America is a racist country now, but we're here at a college. Do you really think as a historical matter, America has never been a racist country?
I mean, think about what you're saying. First of all, I will tell you, when you look at, the Declaration of Independence, it was that men are created equal with unalienable rights, right? That was what we all knew. But what I look at it as is I was a brown girl that grew up in a small rural town. We had plenty of racism that we had to deal with. But my parents never said we lived in a racist country. And I'm so thankful they didn't. Because for every brown and black child out there, if you tell them they live or were born in a racist country, you're immediately telling them they don't have a chance. And my parents would always say, you may have challenges. And yes, there will be people who are racist, but that doesn't define what you can do in this country. And so I think it's important that we tell all kids that, look, America is not perfect. We have our stains. We know that. But our goal should always be to make today better than yesterday. It's hugely important. And that's the problem I have is we have too many people with this national self-loathing. It is killing our country. We have got to go back to loving America. We are blessed because that little brown girl in that small rural town in South Carolina, she grew up to become the first female minority governor in history. She then went on to be UN ambassador, and now she's running for president of the United States. I want every brown and black child to see that and say, no, I don't live in a country that was formed on racism. I live in a country where they wanted all people to be equal and to make sure that they had life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Okay, but just to push back a bit, because I was a history major in New Hampshire, you're talking about the ideals of America. But America was founded institutionally on many racist precepts, including slavery.
But when you look, it said all men are created equal. I think the intent was to do the right thing. Now, did they have to go fix it along the way? Yes, but I don't think the intent was ever that we were going to be a racist country. The intent was everybody was going to be created equally. And as we went through time, they fixed the things that were not all men are created equal. They made sure women became equal too. All of these things happen over time. But I refuse to believe that the premise of when they formed our country was based on the fact that it was a racist country to start with. I refuse to believe that. I have to know in my heart and in everybody's heart that we live in the best country in the world, and we are a work in progress, and we've got a long way to go to fix all of our little kinks. But I truly believe our founding fathers had the best.
I'm going to cut that up in a minute, but let me get to these comments that came in. James Battle, don't vote for an insurrectionist. Barack Obama didn't change his name. Nikki can't be elected to any office with a real name. Definitely not in the South. Big Al, good morning. Appreciate you, my brother. Appreciate you. Michelle Summerall, clueless. You can cover up slavery. You just can't. You can't cover up slavery. You just can't. Clue, you can't cover up slavery or use one person who succeeded to think there is equity for everyone. Michelle Summerall, I cannot type today. You cannot cover up slavery, racism. Your refusal to believe it doesn't make it so. All right. Remember, straight talk, no chaser. Saturday. I pulled out a couple of things that she said that I want to touch on. First, I want to say this. Why does it seem that the only time the topic of racism comes up or the discussion of racism only comes up during election time? Why does it seem that the only time that racism is important is when they're asking us for a vote? They're asking us for our support. Never is it discussed. And if you've noticed, if you go back and watch over years, we've gotten to the point of where when it came up, there was questions and they tried to push back against what happened in the past. And they always brought it up to the fact of where we're at now and how much better we are, which is what she did. However, if you really listen very closely, she tried to push back on what happened, but it wasn't the intent. Listen to what she said now. She doesn't think the intent of the forefathers, which is what they always go back to when you talk about the Declaration of Independence, all these different things that they wrote back there. It's always about that their intent. But she says she doesn't think their intent was to be a racist country. But their intent was, from the beginning, to have slave labor to build this country. But let's go here. James Battle, let's go here first. Does she not know that when the Declaration of Independence was written, Black people were not considered people? They were property. That document did not apply to them. They were referring to all white men, not all men. Couldn't have said it better myself. Michelle Summerall, the intent was never for slaves to get free. You know, I had a thought about this, and before I get into it, I had a thought about this. You know how we always say, or we always think about, what if someone from the past, you know, sometimes we'll say, if Martin Luther King was alive, let me get it right, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King was alive today, what would his thoughts be about where we're at in the fights we're still fighting, everything like that? So I took it a step further, you know me. When they talk about the forefathers and their intent, what would Thomas Jefferson and Benjamin Franklin and George Washington, how would they feel if they were able to see now what's going on and where we are in this world? Not just the country, in this world, compared to where we were when they were walking this earth and owned slaves. Does anybody ever think about that? Because when they say their intent, that's what comes to my mind. If their intent was to have all men created equal, or they said this, they said that, if their intent was not to be a racist country, then you have to go back and ask, if they were here today, well, how would they see this country? If that was not their intent. Because if that was not their intent, and this is where we're at now, what their actions showed was completely different than what their intent was by their definition. So that would tell me if they were alive today, they would be up in arms with every politician in this country that has wrote any type of legislation to even give us an inkling of rights in this country. Just a thought. Intent. Yeah, okay. Reggie P. Rowe, good morning, my brother. Appreciate you. Okay, so let's break this down, Nikki Haley. She said somewhere in here, she says, but what I look at it as I was a brown girl that grew up in a small rural town, we had plenty of racism that we had to deal with. But my parents never said we lived in a racist country, and I'm so thankful that they didn't. So you're recognizing that there's racism in this country, but you say that we're not a racist country. But you as a little brown girl, because your parents never said we lived in a racist country. And I'm so thankful that they didn't. I'm confused. Because if there's racism in this country, when you say this is a racist country, that doesn't mean 100%. That means it's here in this country. This country was built on the back and the understanding of racism. See, what bothers me more than anything that she said in here, and I'm going to paraphrase here because I just got to go. I digress. What bothers me more than anything with what she said throughout that whole time, never once did she identify what has been wrong in this country and what is still wrong in this country. She tried to sugarcoat it and say, we've made progress and we still got progress to make, but this is not a racist country. When we talk about systemic racism, where you hear me talk about it all the time, where we have people going to jail for 30, 40 years for crimes they didn't commit, does that make this country and the system racist? Or does it just mean that there's flaws in the system? Because the only people that are serving these 30 and 40 year sentences for crimes they didn't commit look like me. So does it mean that when you say that this is not a racist country, when we see the things that happened to George Floyd and all the way back with the lynchings and the killings and the hangings, and now we're finding of graveyards where there's unmarked graves of people that have been killed in the back of a jail down in Mississippi, does that not make this country racist, or is it just racist pockets? When you talk about the KKK, when you talk about white supremacy within this country, does that eliminate the fact that they're members and they're citizens of this country? So because they're racist, there's not a racist country? See, you can't talk out both sides of your neck when you talk about the racism aspect in this country. What you have to do is look at the history that you're trying to eliminate by taking the books out, by not being able to talk about it. You disparaged the 1619 Project for years and years and years, which you still do. Critical race theory you don't want to talk about, but you don't want to identify where we've been wrong in this country and where we've been done wrong in this country. But in the same breath, you want to say that the intent was not for this country to be racist. But racism exists in this country still today from what it was built from when they wrote the Declaration of Independence, where it says all men are created equal. So if you want to break it down and you want to run for president and you want to do these things as elected officials and different things like that, speak the truth is all we ask. I would rather her stand up there and tell me. This is something that I'm a true believer in. Y'all can agree with it or not. I am a true believer that if you are a white supremacist, or if you believe that black folks ain't good for nothing, the immigration problem is a problem because it's making the white folks the minority and brown and black and brown folks become the majority. If you believe that, I would rather you just tell me that, because then I know how to deal with you. But when you straddle the fence, it just puts me in a position to look at you and like, I can't believe anything you say after that, because you're not being honest with me and you sure ain't being honest with yourself. Do I agree with white supremacy and what they stand for? Hell no. But if you come out and tell me that's where you stand, then at least I know how to deal with you. But if you sugarcoat it, you hide behind masks as the KKK did, or you want to have these little backdoor meetings and all this kind of stuff, or you're in the system and you're putting these bigger sentences on black folks when they come in a courtroom compared to white folks who've done the same crime, and you don't say it, but you're wearing a robe that makes you look like a judge, but the judgment is only against people that look like me. That's where my problems come in. That's where the problem comes in. If you're a racist, damn it, say it from the mountaintops, because then we know how to deal with you. But because you feel that if you say it, if you express it, that you can't meet the pinnacles of the career you're trying to get, you a damn lie. So you get into the positions saying that you're not racist, but everything you do once you get in there is racist. That's all I'm saying. Sorry, y'all. Brown hoodie, conveniently brown when necessary. Well, I didn't want to go there. I didn't want to go there. But yes, conveniently brown when necessary. James Battle, she changed her name for the same reason that Ted Raphael Cruz changed his name. Those names don't play well in MAGA land. I don't think they play well in America. Let's just go. Just call it what it is. Let's just call it what it is. And here's the other part that jumps out at me with this. You know how Donald Trump has the Roger Stones and the I can't remember his name, the guy from Breitbart. I can't remember all the names, but those guys that believe in the white nationalism, white supremacy, and all this kind of stuff. And he's still able to interact with them, still able to deal with them, have them on his committees and all these different things you can think about, that he surrounded himself with these people that have these beliefs. But if you go back to when former President Barack Obama was running for president, and they made him and told him he needed to distance himself from Reverend Jeremiah Wright because of a sermon that he preached in his church that President Barack Obama used to go to. And do you see the outcry and the uproar it was because in his speech, he said, you know, forget God bless America, it's goddamn America. And I'm reading I'm saying what he said. So Mom, don't get upset with me because I said damn. But what I'm saying is, do you remember the uproar and what President Obama had to come out and say that he was not attending that church no more? He how they do it, admonishes the words he used and all this kind of stuff. But you've never had to have any, and I'm gonna go out on a limb here, any white person running for any type of office have to distance themselves at that length, no matter what. Let's think about this. Donald Trump was good friends with Jeffrey Epstein. Good friends. And then when all the shit broke out, he wasn't his friend anymore. He distanced himself only because it was going to hinder his views amongst the people who looked up to him. They didn't make him. He did it because of the controversy. Just saying. Edward Allen, Reverend Wright was absolutely right. Wright was right. Exactly. But that's what I'm saying. These are the things that people look at and they don't think it's an issue. She also said, and that's the problem that I have. We have too many people with this national self-loathing. It is killing our country. We have to get back to loving America. Stop right there. As a black man, which is all I've ever been in this country, if I have disagreements with the things that are going on in this country, and I recognize racism and how it's affecting people that look like me, and I report it and I put it out there and I continue to talk about it because it's something that needs to be addressed, you look at that as a national self-loathing? Let me tell you something. When these people get out there and they throw out this talking point that because you have something to say about the injustices in this country, that you hate America because you're saying that, where did this come from? The only people that ever get told that we hate this country are people of color. Whenever we stand up to say this is wrong, now because we're identifying something that's wrong, they equate it to we hate this country. Why is that? Because it goes back to the fact that this is a racist country. And when you say that, and in its core, this country was built on racism. And when you talk about it and you identify it, when you identify it, because you identify it, you don't love the country. Well, when you have been in this country long enough and your experiences show you what happens to people that look like you in this country, there can be a sense of hate per se. But I don't think it's hate. And that's the word that they use most time. And sometimes I'll use, rather than hate, disdain. And that's specifically for Reggie P. Rowe, disdain. But I don't think we as a people hate the country as a whole. We don't. Otherwise, we wouldn't serve in the military for this country. We wouldn't run for office in this country. We wouldn't do the things that we do for this country. What we're saying is we want equality in this country. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is not something to give everybody a leg up over top of anybody that's worked hard. What it's telling you is we've been so far behind where you've had a head start. All we're asking for is the same opportunities. That's it. That's it. But when you talk about these things, it automatically goes to self-loathing and hate for the country. No. That's not what it's about. What it's about is we hate the way the systems are set up against us. We hate the fact that there are people within these systems that because of who comes before them and how they look or their name on a resume, they choose not to pick that person no matter how qualified they are because of the racism that is embedded in this country from day one. That's it. That's it. If you took a survey of 100 African-American people in this country and asked them, do they love this country? I'm going to go out on a limb and say 85% of those 100 would say yes, but there would also be a caveat to it. And because the caveat shows the fact that, yes, I love this country, but yes, I love this country in spite of. You can't put all of us in this bucket to think that we hate this country because we choose to speak out about the injustices done to us, not only back then, but now and today. This is where the issue comes in. And the only time you hear this kind of talk is during election time. Election time. Tommy Dorsey, Americans never embraced African Americans. There it is in a nutshell. Why didn't you put that up earlier, man? I could have said that and called it a day. I didn't have to go through that whole diatribe. Tommy Dorsey, the ugly truth that most white Americans don't want to discuss. And you've heard me say this many times. There will never be a solution if you don't have a discussion. You can never come up with a solution if you don't have a discussion. It's that simple. But no one wants to talk about it until there's a George Floyd incident. Well, a George Floyd murder. Let me get it right. Or there's a person of color running for a specific office. You know, it's disheartening, but in the same time, it's reality. It's the reality of where we are. When you tell me that this is not a racist country and we've been trying to do better. We've been trying to do better. I think she said something to that extent. How are you trying to do better when anything and everything that identifies and talks about what has happened in this country in the past, you're trying to eliminate from the history books? So are you trying to become better, or are you trying to eliminate the errors of your ways? And I say error of your ways, but were they errors or were they the true meaning of who you thought you were? Supreme. And I want people to understand this too. Me standing up for my people, I'll say it again, I'll continue saying it. Me standing up for my people and what happens in this country to my people and me experiences does not make us anti-white or anti-American. It makes us pro-black. And I can be pro-black, just like those white supremacists can be pro-white. But nobody has a problem with that. But they got a problem with me. Who are you to speak up about this country like that? The audacity. Yeah. Yeah. The audacity. Y'all like that, didn't you? You know, I got this quote from Congressman John Lewis, rest his soul. And this is what he said. He said, the scars and stains of racism are still deeply embedded in the American society. The scars and stains of racism are still deeply embedded in the American society. And this is coming from a former congressman, rest his soul, John Lewis, who had his head busted open while he was marching in Selma. Faye Jackson, the way I see it is these same people say that they love America, but their actions speak differently. Just saying. But you know what's funny about that? And I'll say funny at this point. Their love for America is never questioned. But ours is continually questioned. And I'll put this caveat in there. Some will agree, some won't. The reason our love for this country always comes into question when we question what has happened in this country. Because when you know what has been done to you and your ancestors through history, that's why they question, do we love this country? Because they know through history that we have not been treated fairly by what is written in the documents and the intent of what the forefathers had. That's why when we speak up about the systems and the things that happen in this country, first thing they say is, you hate American. You hate America. You're not a real American. Or they say, go back to Africa. Those are the things that you hear. Not as much, but you still hear them. She mentioned in here, Jake Tapper asked her that she was identifying the ideals of the United States when it was created, but that the country was founded institutionally on many racist precepts, including slavery. And she said, you ready for this? But when you look at it, it said, all men are created equal. I think the intent, here we go again, the intent was to do the right thing, Now, did they have to go fix it along the way? Yes. But I don't think the intent was ever that we were going to be a racist country. It was written that if you're black, you're 3/5 of a man. When it came to voting, you were 3/5 of a man in this country. And then her of all people, being a woman, an immigrant, child of immigrants, well, the immigration worked for her, but not the people at the southern border. But that's another conversation for another day. It's amazing to me for her to stand there and say the intent when women, as James Battle said, women weren't even in the equation either. Just saying. I think the intent was to do the right thing, I think the intent was to do the right thing. Wow. When you talk about racism, when you talk about the history of what has gone on in this country, you have a person running for president that says the intent was to do the right thing. But you had slavery for how many years before and after they wrote the Declaration of Independence? Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was killed all because he was talking about equality, equal footing, not only for the African American, but for women and immigrants, anyone who came to this country who was looked down upon because they weren't white. He was killed. Now you can say, well, the person that killed him was racist. But the systems that were going against him for equality were racist. And you have to call it what it is. It's racism. Call it what it is. Call it what it is. Dwayne Collins, checking in, big bro. Speak on it. Appreciate you, bro. Appreciate you. Love you. Keep your eyes open, y'all. Still election season. They want your vote. Choose wise. Mind, body, and soul. Mind, body, and soul. Last week, we dealt with the common denominator of health: mental, spiritual, physical, relationship, and financial. And I know there's a lot of people that, listen to it. They had their own, per se, what they call resolutions. I won't say lifestyle focuses and different things like that for the year. But in the mind, body, and soul this week, I want to go into the common denominator of health, but I want you to look at it in a different way. I want you to look at one thing differently. And I seen this and it really jumped out at me. And today, all I want to say to you is be present in the moment. Be present in the moment. The reason I bring this up is because this week I seen a conversation that some people were having while I was perusing the internet. And it said, if you step back for a minute and look at what you're doing in your life right now, whether you're at work, whether you're home with your family or out to eat or anything like that, are you truly present in the moment? When you're out with your significant other or your friends or anything and you're having dinner, are you truly present? Are you there mentally, physically, emotionally, and all the above? Are you truly there? And the reason I bring that up is because they brought this up. This right here. If you go anywhere into a restaurant, you walk into a basketball game, football game, anywhere you go, this is what everybody is doing. This right here. They're looking down at their phone. They come up, they join in the conversation, then they're back in their phone. They're up, they're down, they're up, they're down. It's like a bobblehead, up and down, up and down. Being present in the moment means we need to put the electronic devices down. We need to be fully engrossed in what is going on when we're in the moment of what is happening. I say that because I think a lot of times in this time, in the time of technology and everything's at your hands, right at your hands and everything, that we're there, but we're not there. I'm guilty of it. I'm pretty sure I'm guilty. If you ask my wife, she'd tell you, yeah, I'm guilty of it. And she's guilty of it to a certain extent, not as much as me. But everyone out there, I just want you to think, are you truly being present in the moment? When you're out with your friends, when you're with your family, when you're having conversations, when you're watching TV and a movie, are you truly in the moment of what you're doing when you're doing what you want to be doing? These phones, social media, all these things have taken us away from being there. Because even though we're here physically, mentally, we're everywhere else because of this. I think the best way to challenge you, and I'm going to put a challenge out to myself as well. If you do a lot of social media, which I do because of what I do here on the show, I would challenge you to take one day, start with one day, and just do no social media at all. And when I say social media, I'm talking about Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, any of it. Just leave it alone. Just don't touch it. When you're out to dinner, either leave your phone in the car or put it face down on the table. Because I understand emergencies could happen and everything like that, but most of you don't even have the ringer on anyway. So how are you doing? I'm talking to somebody and hopefully she heard it. You don't have the ringer on anyway, so you're not going to hear it. Put the face down on the phone, put it down on the table and leave it alone. Be in the moment. And the reason I say that is because tomorrow's not promised. Tomorrow is not promised. We have a lot of things going on in this world that could, cause us to see differently, but tomorrow's not promised. And we got a lot of things that we should be thankful for. And being in the presence of family, being with your significant other, being with friends, and being able to sit and have a conversation, break bread and things like that is a blessing amongst itself. Take the time to be present in the moment. Please be present in the moment. I'm challenging myself and I'm challenging you too. We have to get better with being there fully. And I say fully, not just in the flesh, but in the mind, in the presence of who we're with at the time that we're with them. Now, that's the mind, body, and soul. I got something special I want to do this morning. I don't usually do this, but I'm going to do it today. Y'all bear with me. I want to give a special shout out to my mother, Lucille Whedon. Yesterday, my mother turned 80 years old. I say 80 years young, but for some of y'all, it's 80 years old, 80 years young. I admire this woman. I love this woman. I give praise to this woman. Not only for being my mother, but for being who she is for these 80 years. Now, I've only been allowed and been able to be in her life for 57 of those 80. But I'm going to tell you this. Those 57 years that she's been in my life have been the best 57 years of my life. You know, we get two parents. Two. Our DNA is our DNA. But I can only hope and pray that every ounce of DNA that's in me of my mother shows up every day. She's selfless. She's not about herself. She does for everyone, and she puts everyone as a priority before her. That's my mother. I just wanted to give her a shout out because 80 is a milestone. 80 is a milestone. We can only hope and pray that we'll see 80. And I say this because without putting all information out, in the 80 years my mother's been here, she's seen some things and has dealt with some things that a lot of us probably would throw our hands up and say, I can't do it. But I've heard my mother's conversations with other folks, and they ask her different things about how does she do this and how does she do that and how was she able to persevere and how was she able to continue to keep on keeping on. And she always says, but God. But God. Happy birthday, Mom. We love you. I admire you. And I can only pray that the amount of DNA that I have in me of you comes out of my pores every day to show people I'm worthy because I have a praying mother. And no matter what, that unconditional love can never be denied. Happy birthday. We're going to go ahead and wrap this up before I get too emotional on here. I appreciate everybody tuning in today. Sharice Joseph, ma'am, happy birthday. Appreciate it. Thanks for the birthday shout outs to my mom. You know, it was yesterday. They had a snowstorm. She didn't get to celebrate like she wanted to, but it's coming. It's coming. As I said before, it's election season. We're going to hear a whole lot of propaganda. We're going to hear a whole lot of different things going on about who, what, when, where, and why. All I'll ask you as a whole, people as a whole, take your blinders off. Understand and know that during election season, you're going to hear what they want you to hear, not exactly what they truly mean. Read between the lines, do what you have to do to make the right decisions, and also be cognizant of a wolf in sheep's clothing. I'm just going to leave it at that today. As I always say before I sign off, love yourself, love one another, keep your head up, and most definitely, keep your faith in God. I'll see y'all next week. I'll holler. Peace.